Hi and welcome. In this video we're going to create a double exposure image from two images using layers, adjustment layers, blend modes, text and effects. Now we're going to take these two images. I've got this one and I've got this one. I'm going to try and blend them together in an interesting way as like a double exposure, and we'll take it to something like this. I've ended up making like a little bit of a mock film poster out of it. Okay, so we'll start with the cityscape image open. Now I want to point out before we start that this technique doesn't work for all images. Sometimes you'll use two images and it'll give you rubbish. Other times the result will slap you in the face, it's so good. Now generally one of the images with a lot of dark areas or light areas around a central subject will work better. Now setting up the layers to enable you to maximise your creativity is a time-consuming and repetitive task. Now to this end I've created an action, and you can see it down here in my actions panel, this double exposure action by me. And I created this so it allowed me to do things quickly. So I could just put the images in, quickly have a look at what the result was, and then I knew whether they worked or not. Now if you want the action, it is available to download together with the ebook. Just check the more section under the video and click the link to download them. Okay, let's dig in. Well, the first thing we need to do is to get these two images together. So I'm going to click on this image. I'm going to make sure I've got my move tool active. I can press the V key and then I'm going to click and drag it over the cityscape tab. Just pause until the cityscape comes to the front. I'm going to drag it back and then I'm going to let it go. Now it is a bit big, it's certainly a bigger image than the cityscape one, so I'm going to have to transform it. Now I may need to zoom out a little bit, so I'm going to press Control and minus, and then I'm going to use free transform. So I'm going to use Control and T, and I'm just going to scale this a little bit. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down and grab a corner, and the Shift key is going to let me drag it in proportion. So I'm just going to drag it down a little bit and then move it up into this corner, and then I think I'll rotate it a little bit as well, and then drag those up into that corner like that. Now I've deliberately left this little triangle. I could have filled this in with content aware fill or something, but what I'm going to do, I think it makes it look a little bit edgier when we finish, so I'm going to leave it as it is. So once I've got that in position, I'm going to double click to accept that transform, and then I'll just zoom out a little bit on it. That looks better. Oh, I'll just shut this action panel down because I'm used to having my layers panel at this side. There we go, that's better. Right, the next step is really the names of these. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're doing it manually, but if you're going to use the action, it does matter. And this top layer needs to be layer 1, needs to be named layer 1, and the bottom layer needs to be named layer 0. So if you just double click on it to rename it, it comes up as layer 0 anyway, and we click OK. So we've now got layer 1 and layer 0. Right, let's start with layer 1. Now the first thing I want to do is to group these with themselves, because I want two groups there to put the different adjustments in. So I'm going to press Control and G, or Command and G if you're on a Mac, to create a group. And I'm going to call this group, we'll rename it, and we'll say top image. And then I'll click on the bottom layer and I'll do the same again. Control and G, put it in a group, and I'll rename this bottom image. Okay, I think we're good to go. So now we've got two groups, and each of them, the top image has the top image in, and the bottom image group has the bottom image in. And you get to the group, you can open the group by clicking this little triangle here. This is the disclosure triangle. If it points sideways, it means it's shut, and if you click down, it opens it up. Now step 3, let's have a look at this. I want to add some adjustment layers. So I'm going to click and start with my top image. So I'll open that group, and then I'm going to add some adjustments. And I'm going to add 3 of them. So the first one is a solid colour. So I'm going to go down to my adjustment layers and make a solid colour adjustment layer. Doesn't matter what colour really, but I'll make it red to start with, and then click OK. And then I'm going to add a black and white adjustment layer. and then I'm going to add a levels adjustment layer. And then what I'll do is I'll just put the colour one up at the top, and I'll put the levels one down at the bottom like that, just in case you run the action, because it brings it up in this order. Okay, now I'm going to click on the group, the top image group, because I'm going to change the blend mode of this one to lighten. And then I'm going to click into the colour fill adjustment layer, and I'm going to change the blend mode of that to colour, and then you should be able to see through things now. Okay, so I'm just going to close the top image group, and I'll open the bottom image group. I'll just click that layer to activate it. I'm going to do exactly the same here. So we're going to go for a colour fill layer, or a solid colour layer, and again we'll make it slightly different colour. I'll make it blue, and then click OK, and then we'll add a black and white, and then we'll add a levels, just like we did before. And again we'll just swap these round. We'll put that up at the top, and we'll put the black and white in the middle. Same thing again. I'm going to click the group, and I'm going to change the blend mode to lighten, and then I'm going to click on the colour fill layer, and I'm going to change that blend mode to colour. Okay, why all these adjustments, you might say? Well, it's really to give myself and you, if you do this, a lot of creativity. So I've got my colour, which I can change, and I've got my black and white. There may be some colours in a colour image, and we can target the specific different tonal ranges. And with levels, we've got obviously the exposure. And it's a case of just playing around now with these slides. I'll leave that at red, and I'll have a go at the black and white. I mean, there's not a lot of colours in this, but whatever you've got, you see, you can actually target specific ranges. So if there's any yellows in the image, if there's any reds, don't think there's much green in this, and there's not much blue. And then you can obviously target any tonal ranges to drop out some of the mid-tones, brighten it up a little bit, or darken it down a little bit. And we can do the same with the bottom image. So I'll go down to the bottom image. So we've got this set to blue. I'll just leave that as it is because I quite like that blue. And then we can have a look at the black and white layer. And again, this is a blue layer, so we're not going to have much of other colours in it. So I can make it darker, and I can make it lighter. I can do the same with the levels. I can make that really, really dark. But I quite like just a hint of blue. I do like that. So we'll leave it set like that. And I think we're cooking with gas. This is looking cool. Now when I got to here, I thought, it's got a little bit of a film poster sort of look about it. So I thought, well, I'll just add a little bit of text just to finish it off. So I'm going to close down both my groups because we don't need them. I'm going to click so at the top, so my top image group's active because I'm going to put a text layer and I want it to be at the top of the stack. So I'm going to click my text tool, or you can press T on the keyboard, and I'm using Bebas Neue as a font. I'm using quite a big font, 400. You can use a similar one if you don't have that one, because I just think it's got a little bit of a film postery look. And I'll click, and I'll type me City Heat. And then I'll just move that a little bit into the corner. Now I'd like the city to be this small of the light, but I'll just highlight the heat because I'd like that to be the bold. So I'm just going to click into that, and I'll pick Bebas Neue Bold. So that gets a little bit bigger. And then I'll press enter on the keyboard. And I think that's looking quite good, but it's not brilliant. So what I'm going to try and do, I'll style it a little bit to make it stand out. So I'm going to go down to the FX icon, and I'll select blending options. And the first one I'm going to use is the bevel and emboss. So I'm going to click in there, and you see I get a little bit of a bevel, and to be honest, I'm going to accept all the default values for that. That looks fine. It just puts me a little bit of an edge on. And then we'll have a stroke, so I'll click on the stroke, and here again we've got about a 4 pixel stroke. I've set it to inside, and I've set the colour to red to match the overall look. And then we'll add an outer glow. And you can see all I've done here is I've set the blend mode to screen. I've pulled the opacity just down a little bit. I've got white as a colour, and then basically I've just made the spread a little bit wider just to give a soft edge, and then I've made the size bigger. If I come right down, you can see that we get a little bit, but if you pull it, it gives you like a little bit of a background on it as well. And if you wanted, you could, let's have a go at this, probably just put a slightly warm feel to that as well. No, I don't like that. I'd rather have, yeah, I'll stick to white. I think that looks okay. And then I'm going to click OK. So now you can see on my City Heat text layer I've got 3 effects. We've got a bevel and emboss, a stroke and an outer glow, and I think it looks quite cool. And just to finish it off, on that layer what I'm going to do is drop the fill. Now the fill, what that will do is it'll drop out any pixels in the text, but it won't drop out any pixels in any effects that we've put on, which is the bevel and emboss, the stroke and the outer glow. So if I drop that down to 0 now, it should make that text a little bit transparent so that you can actually see through it, and it just gives you can see the road and everything going through behind it. Right, okay, well that's about it. You can now do some more experimentation if you wanted. Let's say with this bottom image, if I wanted a few of these light trails to be in colour, then I could turn off some of these layers or drop the opacity of the layers. Let's try that. Let's try and drop in the opacity of the blue. So we can make that a little bit darker. I quite like that. Probably turn off the black and white layer and play around a little bit more, maybe a little bit higher than that. So I've now got a little bit of colour coming through. Quite like that, yeah. So there we are. We've got some options to look at by changing the opacity, and you can turn layers on and off. Well, that's it for this video. Let's have a quick recap. Now we've taken 2 images and we've put them into individual groups. We've then added some adjustment layers into each of the groups, and we've then changed some of the blend modes. Then we got creative by working with the adjustments in each of the groups. And just to finish off the composition, we added a title and some text effects to give it a little bit of a film postery look. Now don't forget, if you want the action and the ebook, just go to the More section under the video and click the link to download them. If you liked the video, please share it with a friend or two and give me a thumbs up. And please click that subscribe button and help me to grow my Photoshop learning community. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.